Steve Coates, of course, the Flyers Radio Network, 97.3 ESPN. And, hey, I was at the game Saturday, and, man, they really started to, they're really starting to put something together. They really played one of the best games of the season, I guess, but right about the halfway point of the year.
Yeah, they did a real good job. I think that what's happening, Michael, is that the team is learning how to play for Dave Hakstol. We're at the midway point. That should be about right. So if the team is where it's at now, it's only going to get better, because I think if you look at Hakstol's record when he was at University of North Dakota, every one of his teams got better and better and better by the time they got to the playoffs. That's why he had such a great success there. So I think that there's a certain change in the players that needed to change, in the likes of a Braden Schenn and a Sean Couturier, Matt Reed. These are the guys that they needed more output from, the secondary scoring. And now, actually, the secondary scoring is better than the primary scoring, because Drew Simmons and Voracek have kind of dried up of late. So these are good things. And these are things that are things to look forward to. And then with the move last week with Ron Hextall moving Lecavalier and Schenn to L.A., it took the handcuffs off, or the piano off their back when it comes to moving people and bringing people up from the minors. Now, a legitimate chance to change things around here.
Yeah, Coach, if you could, for the people who are wondering how they pulled this deal off, what kind of flexibility did that move get them? Because I don't think people still understand how Hextall was able to pull that off.
Well, I don't think anybody really knows how he pulled it off. It was done actually with mirrors. First of all, I think that the number one thing is that Vincent Lecavalier wanted to play hockey, and he wasn't going to be able to do it here. When you bypass a guy like Lecavalier and bring people up from the minors and play them in front of a guy like Lecavalier, who's a future Hall of Famer, or even play 7 defensemen in front of him, and that was kind of the writing on the wall. So then he wanted to play. It's not a matter of he needed the money. He just wants to play hockey. So here's the actual way, probably the closer that put it together. What happened was he offered to retire at the end of the year. So that took away the last 2 years of his contract, which was a big number. So now, if you're going to guarantee it, well, hold on. The LA Kings want to know, are you going to put this in writing? And that really kind of was on the edge of whether it was legal or not. But he did put it in writing, saying that he would retire at the end of the year. So now the Kings, no matter what, don't have any exposure to Vinny Lecavalier's salary, because that goes away at the end of the year. On top of that, what happens is now the Flyers need to pay a piece of Schenn and a piece of Lecavalier's contract for the remainder of this year, which is about $1.5 million for each player. So their exposure for both these players completely went away. Bang. So that now leaves you about $7 million more a year of cap space. In other words, people that you can bring in, or if you're in the hunt, let's say in a couple of weeks to make the playoffs, you can become a buyer and now have the dollars available under your cap to go out and get that player. So that's kind of like the Reader's Digest version of it. But basically, the whole key to the deal, like everybody's happy about the deal for us. I don't think it's a bad deal for the LA Kings. They needed a defenseman. They're a team that plays heavy. They're a team that plays, and they might fit Luke Schenn pretty good. Lecavalier had a point in his first game. He's certainly well rested. And with the talent they have on that hockey club, he probably just on the power play could be successful, because he can still shoot it as good as anybody.
Yeah, Coach, now you mentioned the head coach before, and that's a pretty big leap to go from college to the NHL. It's not a typical way. How has he weathered that to this point? And obviously it's relevant now, and as you mentioned, his history says we're going to see improvement as the season goes on. But what do you think has been the toughest adjustment from making that leap?
That's a good question, John. I think, when you take a look at the difference between a college coach and a pro coach, a college coach has a player for 4 years. You recruited him, and you got nowhere to go. You're a player. So not the peer pressure, but the pressure to do what the coach wants, and let's say the control that a coach has over a player in that circumstance is amazing, because you got him. I mean, if you don't play there, it's a terrible thing, because you're going to school, you're living there, but you're not able to play what you wanted to play, and that's hockey or any sport. So the college coach really has a big-time control over you. While in pro, you're making a living, so you don't have that control. The only thing you can do is sit a guy out or sit him down during a game. That's the only way you can get to a player in this world today, because they make so much money. I mean, obviously the player makes a lot more money than the coach, and so it's a different type of environment. But I think Dave Hakstol handled this perfectly. I mean, he treats them like men, which they should be. I mean, he's a guy that's completely under control. He understands the game. He understands the people. So I think he's moved in very nicely. And like we said to him at the beginning of the year, the game's the game. You know, obviously the NHL is a lot different than college, but all the players that he has in the NHL, and I'm talking about big-time players that played at North Dakota, they're there in the National Hockey League for a reason, because he's a good coach, and he taught them how to play. So I think that's kind of what it's all about, is just understanding the environment he got himself into and absorbing it and not trying to change the world.
Talking to Steve Coates tomorrow night. The Flyers take on Boston here on 97.3 ESPN. It's an 8 o'clock start with the NBC television. And Coachy, you know, obviously Gostisbehere has really helped this team out since he's been up. He's been out the last couple of games. Doesn't look he'll play. It didn't look like they needed him the other day. Man, having him down the stretch and then ability, do you think this team is going to be in the market to make some now because of that deal? And seeing what he brought to them, you know, the life and energy that he brought to them, is that going to make them more apt now to think about doing some things?
Time will only tell. Now, I was going to say time, not to tell you the end of the year or like that, or even the deadline date. I think you're going to see an awful lot in the time period from now to the All-Star break. Now, right off the top of my head, I think it's 8 games. 8 games to go prior to the All-Star break. And that 8, I think it's 4 and 4, 4 at home and 4 on the road. We were targeted at 10 to really understand where this team is going to go. You're going to know a lot better with the 8 games that they have through the All-Star break, how this team is going to set up to whether they're going to be buyers or they're going to be sellers. And I think that the way the team's right now, they can nick it away. Now, this is not an easy schedule. You got a lot of tough teams in this schedule coming up. You got Detroit, you got the Rangers, you got Boston tomorrow night. So it's not an easy schedule. Chicago, but not Chicago. But the bottom line is that that's when you're going to know. Now, when you talk about Gostisbehere, this guy is the real deal. But I will tell you that I think he's fallen off of late. I think this injury is kind of a backhand way of sitting him down, giving him some rest, and getting him ready for the next leg of this journey. Because he did come from college. He's never played this many games before in this time period. He's always, in college, you play 30, 35 during a regular season, and all of a sudden you're throwing all these games on a weekly basis. And I think he was getting a little tired. That's why his production fell off. And the other thing is the National Hockey League is not a league you're just going to all of a sudden jump into and be outstanding without having a little bit of a setback. And the other teams are starting to figure out how to play him on the power play, how to play him in the overtime. And so it's going to be tougher and tougher for him to be able to really produce, but I think he's good enough to be able to carry that through. But having him in the lineup spurred this team on, obviously. He provided some big game-winning goals. I mean, big game-winning goals. So having him in the lineup's a really good thing. I think he was a guy that everybody thought was going to be good, but it turned out through injury that he had the opportunity to prove that he could play in the National Hockey League.
Steve Coates, tomorrow night right here on 97.3 ESPN, Flyers and the Bruins. And then on Saturday, they got that matinee 1 o'clock start against the Rangers. So a couple of really good games coming up Wednesday and Saturday for the Flyers. Always a pleasure, Coachy. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, Michael, before you go, I got to ask you. I've always put ice on things when they're not healing. You put Jameson's in you?
It's always nice to try to work from within the body and see if it works outwards. You know what I mean?
See? Oh, my goodness. All these years. I had that full groin years ago. I could have done it differently.
I'll let you know if it works.
Thank you. See you guys.
Take care, pal.
Coach, he's awesome.